The eastern tower of the royal palace stood alone, separated from the main structure by a long glass bridge. Most servants avoided it. The few who worked there never stayed long. King Taman walked through the bridge now, his silver scales catching the light from 3 distant suns. His wings folded tight against his back, a sign of tension among the Draconis people. Each step echoed in the empty corridor. He was going to see his son. Again. Like he did every evening. And like every evening, shame walked beside him. The Draconis Empire controlled 17 star systems. Billions of beings bowed to Taman's authority. He commanded fleets that could crack planets. His psychic abilities could crush minds from across a room, but he could not fix his own child. Prince Minho was 8 cycles old. In human years, this meant he was roughly 8 years old. He had his father's silver scales, his mother's gentle eyes and small wings that would never carry him through flight. His tail was strong and healthy. His mind was sharp and quick. His legs did not work. They had never worked. The genetic damage is complete, the royal physician had said years ago. Even our best technology cannot repair what was never properly formed. In Draconis culture, this was more than a medical condition. It was a mark of spiritual failure. Physical perfection meant everything to their people. Strength, beauty, and health were signs of worth. Weakness meant shame. The law was ancient and clear. Children born with severe defects should be exposed to the elements at birth. It was considered mercy. The weak should not suffer through life, the tradition said. Taman had broken that law. When his mate died bringing Minho into the world and the physician showed him the paralyzed infant, Taman had made a choice. He kept his son. He hid him away in the eastern tower, but he kept him alive. The royal court had never forgiven him for this weakness. Taman pressed his hand to the security panel. The door opened with a soft hiss. Inside, Prince Minho sat in his broken hover chair facing the large window. The chair had stopped working properly months ago. It could barely move now. Taman had ordered a new one, but it had not arrived yet. The prince did not turn around. "Minho," Taman said softly. "Father." The young voice was quiet. Empty. Taman entered the room. It was large, but felt like a prison. Expensive furniture. Educational screens. Toys that were never touched. Everything a prince could want except freedom. Except purpose. Except acceptance. "You did not eat today," Taman observed, seeing the full meal tray on the side table. "I was not hungry. You were not hungry yesterday either, or the day before." Minho finally turned his chair around. The movement was jerky. The hover chair's motors struggled. The young prince's silver scales had lost some of their shine. His eyes looked tired. "Does it matter?" Minho asked. The question hit Taman harder than any weapon. "Of course it matters. You are my son. I am your shame." There was no anger in Minho's voice. Just fact. Just acceptance of what he had learned from 8 years of whispers, hidden rooms, and distant looks. Taman wanted to argue. He wanted to say it was not true. But in his heart he knew his son was right. Not because Taman did not love him, but because he had never shown that love loudly enough. He had protected Minho by hiding him, but hiding felt like agreement with those who said the prince should not exist. "The council meeting went long today," Taman said, changing the subject like a coward. "There is talk of expanding trade with the human territories." Humans. Minho's eyes showed a flicker of interest. "The species with no scales? No wings? No psychic abilities?" "Yes. They are technologically behind us, but they spread across space quickly. They adapt well." "Then they are weak but survive anyway," Minho said quietly. "Perhaps I should have been born human." Before Taman could respond, an alarm chimed on his communication device. It was Advisor Dong Min, a senior member of the Royal Council. "My king, the council requires your immediate presence. There has been an incident at the border stations." Taman closed his eyes briefly. Always something. Always duty pulling him away. "I must go," he told his son. Minho turned back to the window. "Of course, I will return tomorrow. Of course." Taman left. The door closed behind him, and Prince Minho sat alone in his tower, watching stars he would never reach. 3 days later, a transport ship arrived from Earth carrying supplies and workers. The labor exchange program between Earth and the Draconis Empire was new. Humans could work in Draconis facilities to learn advanced technology. In return, They provided labor and cultural information. Most Draconis viewed humans as useful but inferior. They were so fragile, so short-lived, so ordinary. Among the arriving workers was a young woman named Hannah. She was 26 years old with dark hair tied in a practical bun and bright, observant eyes. She carried one small bag of belongings. The palace head servant, a stern Draconis female named Somin, reviewed the new workers with obvious displeasure. Humans, Somin muttered. So small, so weak. Try not to break anything. Hannah said nothing. She had learned that humans were not expected to speak unless asked direct questions. Somin assigned work duties. Most humans went to the kitchens or maintenance tunnels. But when she reached Hannah, Somin paused, checking her data pad. You, Hannah, you have medical training? Basic training, yes. I cared for my younger brother who was ill. Then you will not be afraid of sickness. No, ma'am. Somin made a decision that seemed casual but would change everything. The Eastern Tower needs cleaning. No one wants that assignment. You will take it? Another servant, a male Draconis named Quan, looked surprised. The Eastern Tower? But that is where— I know what is there, Somin interrupted sharply. The human can handle it. She has seen sickness before. Hannah did not understand, but she nodded. Yes, ma'am. Where is the Eastern Tower? Quan gave her directions and a cleaning supplies kit. As she walked away, she heard him whisper to Somin, You are sending her to the Broken Prince? Better a human than one of our own, Somin replied. At least if she is disturbed by it, we lose nothing important. Hannah pretended not to hear. She had learned this too. Humans were expected to be deaf when convenient. She crossed the glass bridge as evening approached. The Eastern Tower was beautiful, she thought. Why would no one want to work here? She found the prince's door and pressed the entry chime. No answer. She pressed again. Go away, a young voice called. I am here to clean, Hannah said simply. May I enter? A long pause. Then, do what you want. Everyone does. The door opened. Hannah stepped inside and saw him. A young Draconis child sat in a damaged hoverchair by the window. His silver scales were beautiful even though they looked dull from neglect. His wings were folded small. His eyes were old, too old for his young face. And she understood immediately why others avoided this place. His legs hung uselessly. This was a disabled child in a culture that feared disability. Hannah felt a familiar ache in her chest. She had seen that same look before on her brother's face, the look of someone who believed they were a burden. She set down her cleaning kit and walked to the window. The view is beautiful, she said, but the windows are dirty. Would you like me to clean them so you can see better? Prince Minho stared at her. Humans were rare in the palace. He had never seen one up close. You are not afraid? Afraid of what? Hannah asked, genuinely confused. Of me. Of being near me. Hannah looked at him carefully. She saw a lonely child. Nothing frightening. Nothing disgusting. Just a boy who needed a friend. No, she said honestly. I am not afraid of you. My name is Hannah. What is yours? For the first time in weeks, Prince Minho spoke more than a few words. Minho, he whispered. My name is Minho. Hannah returned to the Eastern Tower every day for the next 2 weeks. At first, she simply cleaned while Minho watched in silence. She washed the windows until they sparkled. She organized his books. She watered the dying plants that no one else had noticed. On the 3rd day, she spoke while working. On Earth, we have these big bodies of water called oceans, she said, wiping down a shelf. They cover most of the planet. The water is salty, and creatures live in it that never touch land their whole lives. Minho turned his chair slightly. Your people live in water? Some of us live near it. I grew up in a coastal city. Every morning I could hear waves crashing against the shore. She smiled at the memory. It was loud but peaceful somehow. We have water worlds in the Empire, Minho said quietly. I have seen pictures. I will never visit them. Hannah heard the sadness but did not offer pity. Instead, she asked, why not? Because I cannot walk. The viewing platforms have stairs. The transport ships require climbing. Everything requires working legs. On Earth we built ramps, Hannah said simply, and elevators, and special boats. My brother Junho could not walk either, but he saw the ocean many times. Minho's eyes widened. Your brother was like me? He had a different condition, but yes, his legs did not work properly. Where is he now? Hana's hands paused in their cleaning. He died when he was 12. His illness was degenerative, but he lived a full life while he was here. He laughed. He had friends. He was loved. I am sorry, Minho said softly. Thank you. Hana continued cleaning. He taught me that a person's worth is not in their body. It is in their heart and mind. Minho said nothing, but he thought about her words for a long time. By the second week, Hana began bringing small items from the human quarters. A potted plant from Earth with small blue flowers. A music player with human songs. A book with pictures of Earth's animals. This is a penguin, she explained, showing Minho the picture. It is a bird, but it cannot fly. A bird that does not fly? Minho leaned closer to see. Yes, its wings are too small. Instead, it swims. It is one of the best swimmers in the ocean. So it adapted, Minho said thoughtfully. It found a different way to be a bird. Exactly. Hana smiled. She showed him pictures of whales, elephants, and giraffes. She told him about mountain climbers who lost limbs but still reached the highest peaks. She described scientists in wheelchairs who made great discoveries. She spoke of athletes who competed in special sports. Humans celebrate these people? Minho asked, confused. Even though they are different. Especially because they are different, Hana said. They show us that there are many ways to be strong. This idea was completely foreign to Minho. In Draconis culture, there was only one type of strength: physical perfection. He had been taught his whole life that he was weak, that he was broken, that his existence was shameful. But Hana spoke of a different world, a world where he might have value. On the 15th day, everything changed. Hana arrived at her usual time in the afternoon. She carried fresh linens and a new book about Earth's forests. She pressed the entry chime. No answer. She pressed again. Still nothing. Worried, Hana opened the door. Servants had override access in case of emergency. Minho? She called. She heard a small sound. A whimper. She found him on the floor beside his bed. His hover chair sat several feet away, powered down and useless. It had finally broken completely. Minho lay on his side, his face pressed against the cold floor. His small fists were clenched in frustration. He had been crying. I fell, he said, voice shaking with humiliation. I tried to reach my bed. The chair stopped working. I called for the guards, but they cannot enter without permission. They cannot touch me without permission. And I could not. Hana quickly knelt beside him. Are you hurt? Only my pride. Minho's voice was bitter. This is my life. Unable to do the simplest things. Unable to even fall with dignity. There is no dignity in refusing help, Hana said gently. May I help you up? Minho looked at her with surprise. In Draconis culture, touching the royal family without permission was forbidden. It could mean execution, but more than that, no one wanted to touch him. He was considered contaminated somehow, cursed. You will get in trouble, Minho whispered. Maybe, Hana said, but you need help now, may I? Tears filled Minho's eyes again, but these were different tears. Yes, please. Hana slid her arms beneath him carefully. She was surprised by how light he was. Draconis had hollow bones like Earth's birds, an evolutionary adaptation for flight. Even though Minho could not fly, his body was still structured this way. She lifted him gently and carried him to his bed. She set him down carefully, adjusting the pillows behind him. Minho stared at her in wonder. You touched me. You were not afraid. You were not disgusted. Why would I be? Hana arranged a blanket over his legs. You are a child who needed help. That is all. But I am defective. I am broken. You are Minho, Hana interrupted firmly. A person. Not a defect. Not a problem. A person. For the first time in his 8 years of life, Prince Minho felt seen as something other than his disability. But neither of them noticed the shadow in the doorway. Royal Guard Bekyan had been stationed outside the tower. He had heard the prince call for help. He had stood there, bound by protocol, unable to enter. When the human servant arrived, he had watched through the gap in the door. He had witnessed everything. His duty was clear. He must report this to the king immediately. A servant had touched the prince without proper authorization. This was a violation of the highest order. Bekyan turned and walked quickly toward the main palace, his mind troubled. He had served the royal family for 20 years. He had never seen anyone touch the young prince with such kindness. King Taemin was in a security briefing when Baekhyun arrived. Advisor Dongmin was explaining supply chain issues. Commander Ji-won was presenting military formations. "My king," Baekhyun interrupted, bowing low. "Forgive the intrusion. I must report an incident in the Eastern Tower." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what the Eastern Tower meant. Taemin's scales darkened slightly, a sign of alarm. "What happened? Is my son injured?" "No, my king, but the human servant—" She touched the prince. Gasps around the room. Dongmin's face twisted with disgust. "A human dared to touch royal blood? Was my son harmed?" Taemin demanded, rising from his seat. "No, my king." The prince's hover chair failed. He fell. He could not rise. "The human—" She lifted him. She placed him in his bed. "This is outrageous." Dongmin slammed his hand on the table. "The human must be punished. Touching the prince without authorization was my son in distress?" Taemin interrupted. Baekhyun hesitated. "Yes, my king. He had fallen and could not rise." "And the human helped him?" "Yes, my king." Taemin was quiet for a moment. His advisors expected fury. They expected him to order the human's immediate removal, perhaps imprisonment. Instead, Taemin asked, "How did my son react?" Another hesitation. He was grateful, my king. When I left, I heard him laughing." The room went completely silent. "Laughing?" Taemin repeated softly. "Yes, my king. The human was telling him a story about humans learning to ride bicycles." The prince found it amusing. Taemin remembered the last time he had heard his son laugh. It had been years ago, before Minho fully understood what his condition meant in their society. "I will handle this personally," Taemin said. Dismissed. His advisors tried to protest, but Taemin's tone left no room for argument. They filed out, whispering among themselves about the king's strange reaction. Taemin walked alone to the Eastern Tower. His mind raced. He should be angry. A human had violated protocol, but all he could think about was his son's laughter. He reached the door and heard voices inside. "So the human fell off the bicycle 7 times? Minho was asking. 8 times, Hana corrected, her voice warm with amusement. "On the 8th time, he crashed into a fruit stand. Apples everywhere. He was finding apples in his clothes for days." Minho's laughter rang out, bright and genuine. Taemin stood frozen in the doorway. His son, his lonely, sad, silent son, was laughing. Really laughing, Hana noticed him first. Her face went pale. She immediately stood and bowed deeply. "Your Majesty, forgive me. I did not hear you enter." Minho's laughter stopped instantly. His expression closed off, becoming the careful blank mask he always wore around his father. Taemin looked at Hana. She was small, even for a human. Fragile-looking. Ordinary. But she had done something Taemin had failed to do for years. She had made his son happy. "Leave us," Taemin said quietly. Hana bowed again and quickly left, certain she would be sent away from the palace entirely. Taemin sat in the chair she had vacated. Father and son looked at each other. "She was telling me about Earth," Minho said softly, as if explaining would help. "I heard." Taemin paused. "You were laughing. I am sorry, Father. I will be more—" "No." Taemin's voice was firm. "Do not apologize for joy, my son. I have not heard you laugh in a very long time." Minho looked down at his hands. "Hana tells interesting stories. She makes Earth sound wonderful, even though humans have no special abilities." "What do you talk about?" "Everything. Animals, oceans, people who are different but still do great things." Minho's voice became quieter. "People like me." Taemin felt something crack inside his chest. "People like you? Humans who cannot walk. But they still have value. They still matter." Minho looked up at his father with desperate hope. King Taemin, ruler of 17 star systems, looked at his 8-year-old son and realized he had no answer, but he intended to find one. King Taemin did not sleep that night. Instead, he sat in his private office watching surveillance recordings from the Eastern Tower. The palace security system recorded everything, though Taemin rarely reviewed footage from his son's room. It was too painful to watch Minho's isolation day after day. Now he watched weeks of recordings at accelerated speed. He saw Hana enter that first day, saw her simple introduction, saw Minho's surprise when she treated him normally. He watched her clean, talk, and bring small gifts. He saw his son slowly open up, saw the careful mask Minho always wore begin to crack. He watched her show pictures and tell stories. He saw Minho lean forward with interest, ask questions, even smile occasionally. Then he watched today's incident, saw Minho fall, saw him lying on the floor, humiliated and crying, saw Hana enter, kneel without hesitation and lift him gently. Taemin paused the recording on Minho's face as Hana carried him to bed. His son's expression showed wonder, amazement, as if kindness was something magical and rare, because for Minho, it was. Taemin turned off the screen and sat in darkness. He had failed his son, not by keeping him alive, but by hiding him away, by treating him as shameful, by never questioning whether their culture's view of disability was right. A human, a supposedly inferior species, had seen what Taemin had been too blind to see. His son was not broken. Their society was. The next morning, Taemin summoned Hana to his office. She arrived escorted by 2 guards, her face calm but her hands trembling slightly. She wore the simple gray uniform of palace servants. Her dark hair was neatly tied back. "Sit," Taemin said, gesturing to a chair across from his desk. Hana sat, keeping her eyes respectfully lowered. "Your Majesty, do you know why you are here?" "I touched Prince Minho without authorization. I violated protocol." "Yes." Taemin studied her carefully. "Do you know the punishment for touching a member of the royal family?" "I do not, Your Majesty, but I accept whatever consequence is appropriate." "You are not afraid?" Hana finally looked up, meeting his eyes. "I am afraid, but I would make the same choice again." The prince needed help. Taemin was surprised by her honesty. Most beings lied to him, told him what they thought he wanted to hear. This human simply spoke truth. "Why do you treat my son the way you do?" he asked. Hana considered the question carefully. "Because he is a child who deserves kindness. Just like any child, he is defective by our standards." "He is different by your standards," Hana corrected gently. "On Earth we learned that different does not mean less." "Explain." Hana took a breath. "My younger brother Junho was born with a degenerative muscle disease. His body grew weaker each year. By age 7 he could not walk. By age 10 he could barely move his arms." Taemin listened intently. "Our parents could have been ashamed," Hana continued. "Our culture had its own prejudices. Some people thought disabled children were burdens. But my parents chose differently. They loved Junho exactly as he was. What happened to him? He died when he was 12. His disease took him." Hana's voice remained steady, though pain flickered in her eyes. "But those 12 years were not wasted. He was not hidden away. He went to school. He had friends. He loved music and stories. He taught everyone who knew him about courage. How was he courageous? He lived with joy despite pain. He cared about others even when his own body was failing. He never let his condition define his worth." Hana paused. "When I see Prince Minho, I see my brother. A person with value that has nothing to do with whether his legs work." Taemin was quiet for a long moment. "In our culture, physical perfection is everything. We have believed this for thousands of years." "Then perhaps it is time to believe something different," Hana said softly. "You dare to suggest our entire civilization is wrong?" "I suggest that every civilization has blind spots, things they cannot see because they have never questioned them." Hana met his gaze steadily. "Your Majesty, you rule 17 star systems. You have incredible technology. You have achieved wonders. But you never developed tools to help people like your son because you decided they should not exist." The words struck Taemin like a physical blow because they were true. "On Earth, we have technology to help people with disabilities," Hana continued. "Wheelchairs that work properly, prosthetic limbs, exoskeletons that help paralyzed people walk. We built these things because we decided everyone deserves a chance to live fully. You have technology that could help Minho?" Taemin leaned forward, possibly. "I am not a doctor, but I know such technology exists." Taemin's mind raced. He had access to the best Draconis physicians in the Empire. They had all said the same thing: nothing could be done. But they had approached the problem trying to fix Minho's genetics to make him normal. None had considered simply helping him adapt. "I want to learn more," Taemin said. "About human approaches to disability. About this technology. About," he paused, "about why you see my son as valuable when my own people do not." Hana bowed her head. "I will help however I can, Your Majesty." "You are not being punished," Taemin clarified. "You are being reassigned." Official position as cultural liaison and companion to the prince. You will continue spending time with Minho. You will also educate me. Your Majesty, I am honored, but the royal court will accept my decision, Taemin said firmly, or they will find themselves replaced. The royal council meeting that afternoon was tense. Advisor Dongmin stood immediately when Taemin announced Hana's new position. My king, this is madness, a human, given an official palace role, to attend to the prince. The prince has improved significantly under her care, Taemin replied calmly. Improved? Commander Ji-won scoffed. He is still paralyzed. Nothing has changed. Everything has changed, Taemin said. My son speaks now, he eats. He shows interest in learning. For the first time in years, he has hope. Hope for what? Dongmin demanded. He will never walk. He will never lead. He will never be a proper heir to the empire. Says who? Taemin's voice turned cold. Says our tradition? Our prejudice? Our fear of anything different? The council members shifted uncomfortably. I have watched my son waste away in isolation, Taemin continued. I have watched him lose the will to live. And in 3 weeks, a human servant has done what none of us could do. She gave him a reason to wake up each day. But surely you do not intend to keep him as heir, an older council member named Hyunwoo asked carefully. The empire needs a strong leader. Strength comes in many forms, Taemin said, echoing Hana's words. I am beginning to understand that. This is the human's influence, Dongmin accused. She is manipulating you with sentiment and she is showing me truth, Taemin interrupted. Truth I was too proud to see. Our civilization has built wonders across the stars, yet we cannot accept one child who is different. What does that say about us? The room fell silent. I am establishing a new initiative, Taemin announced. We will consult with human medical experts. We will explore adaptive technology. We will question our assumptions about disability and worth. The other Draconis houses will see this as weakness, Commander Ji-won warned. They will question your fitness to rule. Let them question, Taemin said. I am questioning too. Questioning what we have always accepted without thought. And what about an heir? Hyunwoo pressed. If Prince Minho cannot fulfill the role, you must produce another child with... My son is my heir. Taemin's voice rang with authority. Unless he chooses otherwise when he comes of age. I will not replace him like a broken tool. Dongmin's face darkened with anger. My king, I must protest in the strongest terms. This path will weaken the empire. Our enemies will see a civilization evolving, Taemin said. Becoming stronger through adaptation. Learning from other species instead of dismissing them as inferior. He stood, signaling the meeting's end. This discussion is over. My decision is final. You are all dismissed except Commander Ji-won. The council members filed out, whispering furiously among themselves. Taemin knew they would plot and scheme. Some might even contact other noble houses to build opposition. He did not care. When only Ji-won remained, Taemin's tone softened slightly. You think I'm making a mistake? Ji-won, a scarred veteran of countless battles, considered carefully before answering. I think you are making a choice that will cost you politically. But I also think, he paused. I have served you for 30 years. I have never seen you uncertain until your son was born. You have been divided, trying to be both a king and a father. And now you are choosing to be a father first. Whether that is right or wrong, I cannot say, but it is honest. Taemin nodded slowly. I need you to do something for me, my king. Contact Earth. Request a medical specialist in adaptive technology for children. Someone experienced with mobility devices. Offer whatever compensation necessary. Ji-won's eyes widened. You are serious about this. Completely serious. My son will have the same opportunities any child deserves. If Draconis technology cannot provide that, then human technology will. The council will see this as betrayal of our own capabilities. Then they will learn what I am learning. Taemin said, that accepting help is not weakness, that admitting our limitations is the first step toward overcoming them. Ji-won bowed. I will make the arrangements. That evening, Taemin visited the Eastern Tower again. This time, he did not hide in doorways or watch through screens. He entered and found Minho and Hana looking at star charts together. This is Earth's sun, Hana was explaining. It is smaller than your son's, but it is ours. Father, Minho looked surprised but pleased. May I join you? Taemin asked. Both Minho and Hana looked shocked. The king asking permission? Of course, Minho said quickly. Taemin sat with them. Hana, I want you to tell me everything you told my son. About Earth, about your brother, about how humans view disability. Hana glanced at Minho, who nodded encouragingly. Where should I begin, Your Majesty? Begin, Taemin said, by explaining how a civilization without our advantages learned to see worth where we see only weakness. And so Hana talked, and Taemin listened, and Minho watched his father finally try to understand. Outside the tower, the empire continued turning. But inside, something fundamental was shifting. A king was learning to see his son not as a problem to hide, but as a person to cherish. And that changed everything. 3 weeks later, a small Earth transport ship docked at the royal station. It carried medical supplies, diagnostic equipment, and one passenger, Dr. Yoonji Kim, a specialist in pediatric mobility technology. She was in her mid-40s, with gray streaking her black hair and intelligent eyes behind simple glasses. She had worked with disabled children for 20 years and had no patience for nonsense. When she was escorted into the palace throne room to meet King Taemin, she bowed respectfully but briefly. Your Majesty, she said in accented but clear Draconis language, I understand you have a patient for me. Taemin appreciated her directness. My son. He is 8 years old and paralyzed from the waist down. Your technology can help him? I need to examine him first, Dr. Yoonji replied. But based on the medical files you sent, yes, probably. The Draconis royal physician, an elderly male named Dr. Seok, stepped forward with obvious irritation. I have already examined the prince thoroughly. His genetic damage is permanent. Even our most advanced regeneration technology cannot. I am not here to fix him, Dr. Yoonji interrupted calmly. I am here to help him adapt, Dr. Seok bristled. The difference being? You try to change the child to fit the world. I help change the world to fit the child. Taemin gestured for silence before Dr. Seok could argue further. You will have full access to Prince Minho and whatever resources you need. Hana will assist you. The human servant? Dr. Seok scoffed. She has no medical training. She has something more valuable, Taemin said quietly. She has my son's trust. Dr. Yoonji's first meeting with Minho took place in the Eastern Tower medical room. Hana stood nearby as the doctor set up her equipment. Minho sat nervously in his broken hover chair. He had been examined by doctors countless times, always with the same result, disappointment and head shaking. Dr. Yoonji approached him with a warm smile. Hello, Minho, I'm Dr. Yoonji. You can call me Dr. Kim if that is easier. Hello, Minho said softly. Hana has told me a lot about you. She says you are very smart and that you like learning about Earth. Minho glanced at Hana, who nodded encouragingly. Yes, Earth is interesting. Well, I am going to examine you today, not to fix you, but to understand how your body works. Is that okay? You are not going to try to make me walk? Minho asked, confused. Not today. Maybe eventually with help. But first I need to understand your body's strengths, not just its limitations. Dr. Yoonji pulled up a chair to sit at his eye level. Every body is different. Yours works differently than other Draconis bodies. That makes it unique, not broken. No doctor had ever spoken to Minho this way. The examination took 2 hours. Dr. Yoonji tested Minho's upper body strength, his wing muscle development, his balance, and his reflexes. She asked questions about what he could feel, what he could control, what caused pain. Dr. Seok watched with barely concealed skepticism. Finally, Dr. Yoonji sat back and made notes on her datapad. Well, Dr. Seok demanded, what is your assessment? His upper body is quite strong, Dr. Yoonji said. Stronger than I expected. His wing muscles are well developed even though he cannot fly. His core stability is good. His arms have excellent range of motion. But his legs do not work. I can see that. But he has many strengths you have overlooked. Dr. Yoonji turned to Minho. With the right equipment, I believe you can have much more mobility and independence. What kind of equipment? Minho asked, hope creeping into his voice. An exoskeleton, a frame that attaches to your body and helps your legs move. It will not fix your paralysis, but it will let you stand and walk with support. Such technology exists? Taemin had entered quietly and stood in the doorway. On Earth, yes. We have been developing it for decades. Dr. Yoonji pulled up images on her datapad. I brought basic components. But we will need to customize everything for Draconis physiology. The tail, the wings, the bone structure, all different from humans. How long will this take? Taman asked. To build it? 3 weeks. To learn to use it? That depends on Minho. Dr. Sok shook his head. Even if this device works, it is just a machine. He will never truly walk on his own. Does it matter? Hana spoke up quietly. Everyone turned to her. She took a breath and continued. If he can stand, if he can move, if he can go places he has never been. Does it matter whether it is his legs alone or his legs plus technology? She is right, Dr. Yunji agreed. On Earth, millions of people use assistive devices. Glasses to see, hearing aids to hear, prosthetics to walk. The technology becomes part of them. It does not make them less. Minho looked at his father. May I try? Taman saw the hope in his son's eyes. How could he refuse? Yes, he said. We will try. The next 3 weeks transformed the Eastern Tower into a workshop. Dr. Yunji brought in engineers, both human and, grudgingly, some curious Draconis technicians. They studied Minho's body structure carefully. They designed a frame that would support his legs without interfering with his tail or wings. Hana stayed by Minho's side through all of it. When the fittings were uncomfortable, she distracted him with stories. When he grew frustrated, she reminded him of his brother Junho, who had faced similar challenges. King Taman visited every day. He watched the progress. He asked questions. He began to understand the complexity of what Dr. Yunji was creating. It is not just mechanics, she explained once. It must work with his nervous system. Read his intentions. Respond to his balance shifts. It must become an extension of his body. Your people have truly mastered this? Taman asked. We had to. We decided long ago that everyone deserves mobility, so we made it possible. Taman felt shame at this. The Draconis had superior technology in nearly every field. But they had never developed this because they had decided people like Minho should not exist. Finally, the exoskeleton was ready. It was beautiful in its own way. Silver metal that matched Minho's scales. Lightweight but strong. It attached at his waist, ran down his legs, and ended in supportive boots. The design accommodated his tail, leaving it free to move for balance. It will feel strange at first, Dr. Yunji warned as she helped Minho into the device. Your brain will need to learn new patterns. You will fall. That is normal. I am used to falling, Minho said quietly. The fitting took an hour. Dr. Yunji calibrated sensors, adjusted supports, and tested connections. Finally, she stepped back, ready to try? She asked. Minho looked terrified and excited at once. Yes. Hana and Dr. Yunji stood on either side of him for support. Dr. Seok watched with arms crossed, clearly expecting failure. Taman stood nearby, his heart pounding in a way it had not for years. Okay, Dr. Yunji said. Think about standing. The exoskeleton will read the signals from your upper body and help your legs respond. Minho closed his eyes. Concentrated. Thought about standing. The exoskeleton hummed softly. His legs began to straighten. For the first time in his 8 years of life, Prince Minho stood upright. He wobbled immediately. Hana and Dr. Yunji held him steady. I am standing, Minho whispered. I am actually standing. Tears ran down his face. His legs shook within the exoskeleton frame. But he was standing. Taman's vision blurred. He watched his son stand and felt something break open inside his chest, all the years of grief and shame cracking apart. Now try a step, Dr. Yunji coached. Just one. Think about moving your right leg forward. Minho's face scrunched with concentration. His right leg lifted slightly and moved forward. Barely 6 inches. But it moved. He immediately started to fall. Hana and Dr. Yunji caught him. That was amazing, Hana said. You did it. I fell, Minho said. You also took a step, Dr. Yunji corrected. On your first try. That is remarkable. They tried again, and again, and again. Minho fell 7 times in that first session, but he also took 12 steps. By the end, he was exhausted and shaking. Dr. Yunji helped him back into his hover chair, a new one that actually worked. Brought from Earth. That is enough for today, she said. You did excellently. After Dr. Yunji and the others left, only Taman and Minho remained. Father and son looked at each other. I stood, Minho said, as if he still could not believe it. You did. Taman knelt beside the chair. I am proud of you. It is not really me. It is the machine. It is you and the machine together. Your strength, your determination, your courage. Taman placed a hand gently on his son's shoulder. I have been wrong about many things. Wrong to hide you. Wrong to accept that you had no future. Wrong to listen to those who said you were broken. You were following our culture's traditions, Minho said. Our culture's traditions were wrong. Taman spoke firmly, and I should have questioned them sooner. I should have fought for you the way Hana fought for you, the way Dr. Yunji fights for you. You are fighting now, Minho said softly. Yes, and I will not stop. Over the next 2 weeks, Minho practiced daily. The falls became less frequent. The steps became more confident. His body learned to work with the exoskeleton. Dr. Yunji also introduced him to a new hover chair, this one human-designed. It was faster, more responsive, and more comfortable than anything Draconis technology had offered. You will not always want to wear the exoskeleton, she explained. Sometimes the chair is better. Both are tools. Use whatever works for the situation. Minho began to understand. He was not trying to become normal. He was learning to navigate the world in his own way. One afternoon, 3 weeks after beginning practice, Minho walked into the palace. He walked slowly, carefully, with the exoskeleton supporting each step. Hana walked beside him, ready to help but not hovering. Palace staff stopped and stared. They had never seen the hidden prince. And now here he was, walking through the gardens. Some looked amazed. Some looked uncomfortable. Some looked away, but Minho kept walking. His head held high, his silver scales gleaming in the sunlight. King Taman watched from a balcony above, and he made a decision. It was time for the Empire to meet his son, not hidden away. Not as a shameful secret, as Prince Minho, the heir, walking forward into his future. King Taman stood before the full royal assembly. Every noble house of the Draconis Empire had sent representatives. The grand hall held over 300 beings, their scales shimmering in every color. Silver, gold, bronze, and deep crimson. They had been summoned without explanation. Now they waited, curious and impatient. Advisor Dongmin sat in the front row, his expression dark. He knew what was coming and had tried to prevent it. But the king would not be swayed. Members of the great houses, Taman began, his voice carrying through the hall. I have called you here to witness a new chapter in our empire's history. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. For 8 years I have hidden a truth from you. A truth I was ashamed of. Taman paused. My son, Prince Minho, was born with paralyzed legs. According to our traditions, he should not have survived his first day. I broke that tradition. I kept him alive but hidden, as if his existence was shameful. The murmurs grew louder. Some nobles looked shocked. Others nodded, having heard the rumors. I was wrong, Taman continued. Not wrong to keep him alive, but wrong to hide him. Wrong to accept that his disability made him less. Wrong to believe our ancient traditions without question. Your Majesty, an elderly noble named Lady Suman stood. Our traditions exist for good reason. Physical perfection ensures strong leadership. This has been our way for millennia. Our way has been flawed, Taman said firmly. We have mistaken difference for weakness. We have rejected those who could contribute to our society simply because their bodies work differently. This is madness. Dongmin stood abruptly. You risk the Empire's strength for sentiment. I risk nothing, Taman replied. I am correcting a mistake. And today I will show you why. He gestured to the side entrance. I present to you Prince Minho, heir to the Draconis throne. The doors opened. Prince Minho walked through them. He wore the exoskeleton openly, the silver metal gleaming. His steps were slow but steady. Hana walked several paces behind him, ready to help but letting him move independently. The assembly erupted. Some gasped. Some whispered furiously. Some stood in shock. Minho walked to his father's side. The walk took nearly a minute, an eternity in the silent hall. But he made it without falling. He turned to face the assembly. I am Prince Minho, he said, his young voice clear and strong. I was born unable to walk. But with help from human technology and human wisdom, I can stand before you today. That machine is doing the work, someone shouted from the back. You are not truly walking. You are correct, Minho replied calmly. This exoskeleton supports my legs. But does Commander Jiwan's combat armor not support him in battle? Does a starship not support you in crossing space? We use technology to overcome our natural limitations every day. The logic was simple but effective. Several nobles nodded thoughtfully. Lady Suman spoke again, more gently this time. Prince Minho, we appreciate your courage. But can you truly lead an empire? The demands are great. I do not know yet, Minho answered honestly. I am only 8 years old. But I am learning. I study governance, military strategy, and diplomacy. My legs do not work, but my mind does. My heart does. Are those not what truly matter in a leader? Before anyone could respond, an alarm blared through the palace. Commander Jiwan rushed into the hall. Your Majesty, we have an emergency. The space station Kepler-7 has suffered a catastrophic failure. Life support is failing. 3,000 civilians are trapped. The assembly fell silent. Kepler-7 was a commercial hub, home to families from dozens of species. What caused the failure? Taman demanded. A structural collapse in the central support column. It happened in a section with unusual design, multiple level changes, narrow passages. Our rescue teams cannot access the damaged area quickly enough. The engineers say we have maybe 2 hours before total life support collapse. Taman's mind raced. Send all available ships. Begin evacuation protocols. Already underway, but the evacuation routes are blocked by debris. We need someone to restore emergency power to the backup life support system. It requires manual access through the damaged sections. Our soldiers are too large to navigate the collapsed passages, Jiwan said grimly. We are looking for alternatives. What about humans? Hana spoke up. Everyone turned to look at her. She bowed quickly. Forgive my interruption, Your Majesty, but humans are smaller. We could fit through spaces Draconis cannot. The human workers are not trained for this, Jiwan objected. But I am, a voice said from the doorway. Dr. Yunji entered, still wearing her work clothes. I am a trained emergency medical responder. I have worked in disaster zones before. Taman looked at the human doctor, then at his son, then made a decision that would have been impossible weeks ago. Assemble a mixed team, humans for access, Draconis for strength and coordination. Dr. Yunji will lead the human contingent. Your Majesty, Dongmin protested, trusting humans with such a critical... Father, Minho interrupted quietly. Everyone stared. The prince never interrupted. If we have learned anything, it is that different abilities serve different purposes. This situation needs small size and adaptability. That is human strength. Taman smiled at his son. Exactly right. Commander Jiwan, proceed. The rescue operation took 4 hours. Dr. Yunji and 5 other humans crawled through collapsed passages that Draconis rescuers could not navigate. They restored power to the backup systems. They found trapped civilians and guided them to safety. Hana insisted on joining the team. She crawled through debris, her small frame squeezing through gaps. She helped carry injured children, both human and Draconis, to waiting medics. All 3,000 civilians survived. When the rescue teams returned to the palace, they were exhausted, dirty, and bruised. Dr. Yunji had a gash on her forehead. Hana's hands were cut and bleeding, but they had succeeded. The royal assembly, which had remained at the palace waiting for news, watched as the human rescue team arrived. These supposedly inferior beings had done what Draconis' strength alone could not. King Taman personally thanked each team member. When he reached Hana, he took her injured hands gently. You have given me far more than help with my son, he said. You have shown me how blind we have been. Hana bowed. Your Majesty, we all have strengths. We all have weaknesses. Working together, we are stronger than alone. Taman turned to address the assembly once more. Today you witnessed 2 things, he said. You saw my son walk, supported by technology we never developed because we dismissed those who needed it. You saw humans succeed at a task our own people could not complete, because we never valued their different abilities. He paused, letting his words sink in. From this day forward, the Draconis Empire will change. We will create accessibility throughout our territories. We will develop technology to help those with disabilities. We will welcome different perspectives and abilities. Your Majesty, Lady Suman stood again. Her voice was different now, thoughtful rather than challenging. I have a grandchild. She was born with a malformed wing. We were told to follow tradition. Instead, we hid her away on a remote colony. Ashamed. If what you propose is true, could she come home? Taman's voice softened. Bring her home. We will help her. She should never have been hidden. Around the hall, other nobles shifted. Some looked uncomfortable, but others showed relief, even hope. "How many of us hide family members?" Taman asked. "How many have lost loved ones to traditions we never questioned? How much potential have we wasted because we could not see past physical difference?" The assembly was silent. "This will not be easy," Taman continued. "Our culture is old. Our beliefs are deep. But we have been wrong, and it is time to change." 6 months later, the Eastern Tower was no longer isolated. Prince Minho spent his mornings in lessons with other noble children. He still wore his exoskeleton for walking, but he also had his custom hover chair for when he needed to conserve energy. The other children had been curious at first, then accepting. One young Draconis girl named Isul, who was deaf, joined the lessons. Minho helped her advocate for accommodations. They became friends. The palace had been retrofitted with ramps, wider doorways, and accessible design. What started as changes for Minho expanded to help others: elderly Draconis, injured soldiers, visiting species with different mobility needs. Dr. Yunji established a medical center specializing in adaptive technology. Draconis engineers who had been skeptical at first now worked enthusiastically on new innovations. Combining human creativity with Draconis advanced materials, they created assistive devices beyond anything Earth had developed. Hana was appointed as the first ambassador of human-Draconis relations. She traveled between Earth and Drakmor, building bridges between the species. She never forgot her roots. She remained humble, kind, and direct. But the biggest change was in King Taman himself. He no longer ruled through intimidation alone. He created the Council of Diverse Perspectives, which included voices from multiple species, including humans. He listened more than he spoke in meetings. He questioned traditions instead of accepting them blindly. His relationship with Minho transformed from distant formality to genuine closeness. They spent evenings together discussing philosophy, governance, and the future of the empire. One evening, as they walked through the gardens, Taman at his natural pace, Minho in his exoskeleton moving slowly, the prince asked a question. "Father, do you think the nobles truly accept me? Or do they just pretend because you command it?" Taman considered carefully. "Some truly accept you. They have learned what I learned, that worth is not measured in physical ability. Others pretend, yes, but even pretending changes behavior, and changed behavior over time changes hearts. And those who will never accept it, they will become irrelevant," Taman said simply. "The empire is moving forward. Those who cannot adapt will be left behind." Minho smiled at the irony. "The ones who criticized me for not adapting will be unable to adapt themselves." "Exactly." They walked in comfortable silence for a while. "Do you ever regret it?" Minho asked quietly. "All the political problems this has caused? The noble houses that oppose you? The challenges?" Taman stopped walking and knelt down to look his son in the eyes. "I regret only that I did not do it sooner," he said. "For 8 years I let you suffer in isolation because I was afraid. Afraid of judgment, afraid of tradition, afraid of change." "You were not afraid of Hana," Minho observed. "No, I was humbled by her. A simple human maid saw what I, a king, could not see. She lifted you when you fell, but more than that, she lifted my understanding. She changed me forever." "She changed all of us," Minho said. "Yes. One act of simple kindness. That is all it took to begin transforming an entire empire." Taman stood. "Never underestimate the power of treating people with dignity, my son. It is the strongest force in the universe." 20 years later, epilogue. The coronation hall was filled to capacity. Representatives from 47 species attended. Human dignitaries sat beside Draconis nobles. The atmosphere was celebratory. Prince Minho, now 28 years old, stood before the throne. His exoskeleton had been updated many times over the years. It was now sleeker, more advanced, nearly invisible beneath his ceremonial robes, but he also stood with confidence earned through years of proving himself. He had studied harder than any prince before him. He had worked with the council, led diplomatic missions, and designed policies that made the empire more inclusive and innovative. When his father died peacefully in his sleep 3 months ago, there had been no question about succession. The noble houses unanimously supported Minho. The high priestess placed the crown on his head. "I present King Minho, ruler of the Draconis Empire." The hall erupted in cheers. Among the crowd, now elderly but still strong, stood Hannah. Her hair was gray. Her face was lined with age. But her eyes still held the same kindness they had when she first walked into a lonely tower room. Beside her stood Dr. Yunji, also aged but dignified. King Minho's first decree was brief but profound. No one will be hidden away because they are different. No one will be told they have no worth. Every being in this empire will have the opportunity to reach their potential. This is not just my decree, this is my father's legacy. But it began with a simple act of kindness from a human maid who saw a child, not a disability. He looked directly at Hannah and bowed deeply. The entire assembly followed their new king's example. Bowing to the elderly human woman, Hannah's eyes filled with tears. She had simply been kind to a lonely child. She never imagined it would change an empire. But kindness, as King Taman had learned, was the strongest force in the universe, and humanity's greatest strength was seeing worth where others saw only weakness. That was the true meaning of HFY. Not that humans were superior, but that they understood something fundamental. Everyone has value, and everyone deserves a chance. That understanding, carried across the stars, changed everything, forever.